Welcome to Repeat Question. Taking a look at Championship Week after being on hiatus for a few weeks due to mostly being introductory matches. I will say those introductory matches were not the most impressive in Schmoedown history. I'm not going to knock too much. Everybody got to come into their own in matches in a little bit, but there wasn't anything too impressive. The more notable vet matches that happened was Josh McCuga versus Nick Scarpino. McCuga won against Scarpino, which shouldn't be too surprising in the special Patreon match. However, it was kind of expected to happen as well, basically the same strength. One of them was going to come out on top, and McCuga seemed slightly more likely as McCuga was far more in the zone than he had been his last few matches. Occupied by other things, McCuga actually seemed there to play a little bit more than he has recently. That was a notable victory. Well, notable enough. Scarpino isn't exactly beating Mark Andreyko or anybody remote like that. We also had the match of the other similar players in Drew McWeeny versus William the Beast Bibbiani. Two heavily hyped players and legitimately so, considering some of their performances, though both with their strange, very idiosyncratic flaws as players. Drew McWeeny with his kind of non-adherence to the rules unless he's playing with Sam Levine, who pays better attention to them, who doesn't repeat the question when clearly he probably could figure it out and repeat it. And we saw that in this match in the first round where he probably could have gotten some of those right, but chose not to try. Against William the Beast Bibbiani, who does great first round, does a great second round. Then he always screws up the third round, and it's kind of bizarre how he does that. It isn't even that he gets like completely impossible questions. Suddenly he just freezes and doesn't know the answer in round 3. And what happened? Once again, Bibbiani freezes up round 3, fails once again in round 3, and he's almost like such a strange player because he clearly has the knowledge, but man, he cannot get past the starting point. He's like if you play Miss Pac-Man, you just keep dying the first round, and then you kind of like lose your will and you just kind of give up early rather than going for the high score. A weird analogy, I know, but just stick with me there. Anyways, once again happens to Bibbiani. McWeeny moves forward, who, again, though, his flaws are still there in terms of just not using the rules to his advantage at any point. But he wins against Bibbiani. Bibbiani once again suffers from the third round curse, something he's consistently suffered from again and again. Perhaps someday he'll kind of find his stride, but he never seems to. I'll see what he comes back if he comes back in team leagues anytime soon, because man, just those errors he makes, just strange. But anyways, McWeeny wins, advances. We'll see how he goes next round. I imagine he'll be taking on either Roca or JT from the live event. Mostly, though, we had debut matches, which I gotta say this was not the best series of debut matches, just because there was a lot of not taking the match seriously. And this is with the difficulty of questions having gone down to an extreme degree, almost too far at times, which I'll get to. But the questions were easier, and yet nobody in the introduction or the Kingsman team in any of the single matches did we see some major victories at any point. No new stars in the main by any chance. Maybe some good, just kind of mid-range players potentially, but even then, maybe not from the matches as the only evidence from them. So we'll just have to see. Hopefully they'll all improve in the future. I'm always up for somebody coming into their own in the league. I have nothing against new players whatsoever. This was not a great debut by any sort. What's far more important then is the championship week we just had, which first championship match, which was a great match, as to be expected, of the rematch between Sam Levine and Rachel Cushing. Cushing was again here to play without question against Sam Levine. Unfortunately, things transpired that kind of went in their favor. It was a great match, though, between the two of them. They missed only a couple of minor questions here and there. Both were playing incredibly well, both at top of their form, top of their game. That was until the speed round, where Sam absolutely dominated as a true champ should. And I've heard some pushback against the speed round. I think the speed round is a great round, actually, with the right worded questions, but these questions were well worded. The questions really should be worded to give away clues before the final, full answer. For example, the Spielberg one about E.T. was a great clue because 1982 gave you that Spielberg, and then it was going to give you the stars, which would be like the kind of third clue. I think all speed round questions should be structured in that way. That way, it's not just who can press the buzzer fastest, who can get the question the soonest from the previous clue. So that when we had 1982, Spielberg, boom, Levine had it, and in that way, most of these questions were worded that way, and that was the type of speed round questions they should be. And Sam Levine excelled in this type of recall, which I think should be part of the championship round. I'm firmly firmly against anybody saying it was wrong. Anyway, one thing is there about it is that it does test who's comfortable and who's not comfortable in these rounds, who's good at recall. Sam is clearly a champion at recall, quite obviously, and he deserved his victory here without question, despite Rachel Cushy really giving it her all, to be sure, and sadly missing out on the 5-pointer, because I would have heard if it had come down to at least a little further down the wire than we saw. But she lost on the 5-pointer, which was kind of a tricky one about Beowulf, Kristen Glover, and vocal performance. Anyway, so it was a tricky question, and she lost on that, but as 5-pointers should be hard. I do not want 5-pointers to be not a giveaway, which was a good thing. But anyways, Levine proves his measure as champion here, and takes down Cushing in what was a terrific, one of the great championship matches, to be sure. That is unlike the final championship round, I guess final, we'll see what happens, between John Roca and Matt Nost as Team Top 10 versus the Patriots and Jeff Schneider and JD. Okay, this was the third match of them, and Top 10 was supposed to lose anyways because they lost twice. It's frankly not good for the league for a 2-time loser to then beat the champ who beat them twice. It's just not a great thing because obviously they could just kind of warm down. Anyways, though, having said that, Top 10 was actually almost beat Patriots in the first place. Second one, they got completely skunked by them. It wasn't even close. This time, though, it was a back and forth. Top 10 was there mostly to play in the first round. Schneider was up to play a little bit more, but they went back and forth. All 4 of the players actually missed, which seemed like shouldn't have been impossible to get answers, but they all missed 1 or 2 each, and it wasn't a major misses by anybody. It was just kind of pretty consistent. The Patriots were up at the end of the round, but it was not by a huge margin. Round 2 is where we start getting to why this match is a little bit bogusy, where Patriots spin movie quotes, potentially difficult question, in which they got the easiest movie quote question possible, except for one question, which was the Copland question, which played in JT's strength. But hey, he got lucky that it was a Copland question, guys. But that was the only obscure quote at all from this question. But people are like, well, it's a new category, man. They got time to room to make stuff, It should not be the most surface level questions, for those should never be part of a 2-pointer question. 2-pointers should never be that easy ever. You should not work from the easiest and then it just gets harder because you want to get more obscure because you can't come up with easier. Those easy ones should be left to round 1 and that's it. They should never be a 2-pointer wheel question. Quotes should have to be something you think about, not like the quote that's more famous than some of the movies in some of these respects. I mean, come on. So that whole round was utterly ridiculous, whereas Top 10 spun Tarantino, and actually they did a good job in questions that should be in a 2-point round. You got to actually think about the film. You got to kind of dissect it a little bit. You got to kind of, examine what's going on. And like Chris Tucker and Jackie Brown, you got to kind of think about, okay, who played that role? There's more to think about than, oh, what was that famous quote at the end of The Usual Suspects? Oh, it was a quote from The Usual Suspects. I'm surprised a couple of those movie quotes questions that I have in The Usual Suspects. This quote is said, what movie is that from? Because that is how freaking easy they were. That round was utterly ridiculous, and those should not be in any 2-point round questions, let alone the championship game. Give me a break. Anyway, that just personally frustrated me a great deal. Then we got to what was going to be probably the most controversial round in Schmoedown history, perhaps. We'll see. The betting round where we got the Patriots spun westerns, and then we got the question. Cat Ballou question, who played basically the main character, but it was a school teacher. You had to think about it. If you weren't familiar with the movie, you might have tricked and said Lead Marvin or something. However, that's not what happened. We got answers. Patriot did 1 point. They say John Wayne, who isn't even in the film. That's not telling you, okay, it's not John Wayne, because John Wayne's not in the film. It doesn't help you at all. Roca comes back. He just wrote something in the last, really after the clock was over. That's really often lenient. Anyways, clock's over. He says Jane Fonda. JT complains that it's just scribble and doesn't say Jane Fonda. However, Jane Fonda was the right answer to the question, yet he claims that didn't write it because the Patriots love winning on technicalities. Even, let's not forget, they don't like to actually be real champ, I guess, who don't win based on technicalities, but whatever. Anyways, we'll just ignore that for the moment and just look at the game itself, which is then it went into a whole crap storm, to slightly censor myself, of ridiculousness, as they didn't just take it and say Roca was wrong because he didn't write it down based on the technicality. They decided to respin the wheel, which makes not a lick of logical sense by any measure. Why would you spin the wheel? That's giving the Patriots a second chance to spin a better category for no reason. If anything, it should be Top 10 got their, just Top 10 loses 3, Patriots lose 1 point based on both of them getting it wrong, although the Top 10 got it right, and the Patriots know that Top 10 got it right. They said they got it right. They didn't not write in. There is something written on that bird squiggle, Jane Fonda. I gotta tell you, that's as close to writing Jane Fonda as JT's spelling of Geppetto is Geppetto. Let's get that straight. this is like if we're getting on the writing, the whole reason that so many things exist is due to JT's ways of squiggling around rules. So for him to be the one who calls upon Roka for not getting this correct is utterly ridiculous. Anyways, the respin, which makes no sense, gives him Will Smith, gives him garbage collateral beauty question, but Schneider gets top 10 lose. Top 10 loses 3 points. Patriots get 3 points, making a gigantic margin than the small one or the even one we would have gotten if the answer had been accepted, and then they're destroyed in the speed round. But the speed round is not a legitimate test for what would have happened if they had actually gotten cool question, because top 10 they were just punch struck by that point because they knew they were down 10 points and they were just rushing in and they weren't playing smartly. But that's going to happen when you've lost 10 points due to ridiculous. And top 10 loses in a terrible final match for them to go against Patriots with, because there's just nothing right about what happened in the betting round. There was nothing right about it at all. They needed to make a different decision than respin. Maybe just cancel the match right there, because that was just ridiculous. And there was, I'll admit, Roka messed up too, because he should have not wiped away what he had written, because man, if you could just tell anything was cursive-y around there. Take terrible handwriting if you can accept JT's horrendous spelling. So come on. I can understand Matt Nose's pretty prickliness at the end of this round, because that was not a game that should have been a championship game at all. It was not good. It was a sad, sad state of affairs, and it's sad that any match had to go down like that. And I hope Nose cheers up, because Nose, I gotta say, once again, although he's not the most flawless player in terms of getting points, he's one of the most entertaining personalities in the Schmoedown, and I would not want to see that he disappears from the league because of this ridiculous. But hopefully, I really honestly think they should just have one more rematch immediately. Do not wait for it. Just do it. Just to settle things once and for all, because that match was not a match that should have been ever conceived with how everything got. It was a sorry state of affairs, and sadly, that was the end of the match, and the Patriots retained the title, which they might have had done so anyways, but the whole thing is blemished. And I mean, this isn't the first time there's been a blemish. Let's not ever forget Team Trek and Evo. Team Trek already would have beaten the Patriots. The thing everybody seems to forget. If the Patriots themselves didn't get to benefit from certain rules bendings, they somehow always go in their favor. Isn't that funny? Like, JT could mispronounce things his way and misspell constantly, but whatever. And new rules are made for him constantly, but let's forget all that. I just take a look. Patriots retain their title. We'll see who comes next down the pike, but I gotta tell you, this one is a deflating match, sadly, which is not what you want. In the Schmoedown, you want to have fun, you want to be entertained, and that's it. And this match, sadly, was more frustrating than entertaining in the end. Okay, so that's that for now. We'll see what goes on in the future. Anyways, in the future, we have a coming up next is an Inner Geekdom 5-way, completely new contenders. So there's not much to be said on that. And then we're gonna beyond that, we're gonna have the live event, which ought to be fun. Hopefully it is. There aren't more screw-ups where JT finally Roka. Roka better be on his game and just beat JT, because he is a better player in most circumstances, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, so with all that controversy out of the way, and that is repeat question. Thank you for listening.